We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
As infamous fictional godfather Michael Corleone was wont to say, I try to get out and they pull me back in. A feeling that Golden Staters must be experiencing themselves as California attempts to tax those who have fled the West Coast. But can this be real? Are business owners and taxpayers really going to be on the hook for cash long after they've left? Well, to help us fathom the depths and the implications of this grand tax grab, we're joined by economist and author, Mr. Andrew Moran. Welcome back to the show, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
So, Andrew, noted attorney and writer Jonathan Turley, he likened it to the classic Eagles song, the Hotel California, as in, you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Is he right?
Well, first, I would just like to say that this is in the best interest of Gavin Nation.
Gavin Nation.
Well, it's not the best interest of anybody. I mean, this whole plan is just it's baffling. I mean, I guess they're following the model of the federal government, because the federal government has an expatriation tax, whereby if you renounce your citizenship, you have to pay a tax. But overall, I mean, this is a bad idea. I mean, the main headline grabber is that if you leave the state, you're going to be taxed in perpetuity. But I think the real headline is that not only it's a 1.5% tax on a worldwide net worth of above $1 billion as of next year, and actually the threshold goes down to 50 million in 2026. And you and I discussed this, I think, a year ago on this program about when the Biden Democrats wanted to impose a wealth tax, and we warned that, first it's $1 billion, and then it's going to be 100 million, then 50 million, then yada yada yada. So I think that's the real headline grabber, because I think the whole exit tax, there's no legality behind it, which I've seen many reports agreeing with that.
Yeah, so it seems that the idea that behind it is that a business perhaps made their wealth within the borders of the Golden State, and therefore they owe money on that. But that's not specifically what this is looking at, is it? This is looking at a worldwide, let's call it an equity tax. So this is all of your assets worldwide, whether they were created in California. So simply by the virtue of having lived in California or operated a business in California, you then become liable for the entirety of your wealth. So tell me, what do you think this will do to businesses that are looking to relocate, as many have, especially tech companies, out of California, or businesses that initially, before this latest news, would perhaps want to go to California to access the admittedly big wealth pool of talent there?
Okay, so a couple of things. First, that this whole net worth tax, it applies to everything you have. So if you own art, that gets applied to it. If you own stock, that's going to apply to it. But with this whole tax, I think it more applies to the individual as opposed to a corporation, from the reports I have seen. So if I, as Andrew Moran, want to go from San Francisco to Texas, my net worth is going to be taxed regardless. But if I'm a business, or a corporation, I'm not necessarily sure if that's going to be applied.
Okay.
I'm going to be taxed in that regard. Let's say Elon Musk, he went from California to Texas. I don't know if he would be his company would be that taxed.
So as long as you don't spend any of the money you make as a business proprietor ever, you're in the clear, correct?
Yeah, if you're an individual and you made $1 billion, then of course you're going to be taxed in that regard. And I also think the issue with that also moving forward is that they say they want to apply this tax so they can fill this whole budget shortfall. I think the number is 222 billion. The tax generates $22 billion in revenue, and they have a budget shortfall of about $26 billion. The sponsor of this bill say that if they apply this tax, they raise that revenue, they can fill that hole. But what about moving forward? I mean, is this going to be a perpetual tax that constantly bails out reckless spending of Gavin Newsom and the Democratic legislator? I guess that's going to be moving forward. And then other states are going to follow the same model, as they have. Massachusetts done it, New York's done it. So many places have applied the wealth tax, and it never works. It's a failure of economics.
So is it your belief, and obviously we don't have this yet, but it does seem to be the way that there's nothing, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government scheme. But you believe that although it's listed as a billionaire tax at the moment, at some point this will come down to those who perhaps have assets to the value of $1 million, which if you own a house in California, maybe your assets are approaching that, right? You think it will come down and it will start taxing people at that level?
Well, yeah, it already has. 2026. It's going to be 50. It goes from $1 billion to $50 million. So yeah, of course that's going to happen. But of course, there's so many unintended consequences of a policy like that. You're going to have issues where there may be less investment, or there may be, an individual may, buy less of, extravagant art. So there's going to be an economic penalty on a broader scale if you apply a wealth tax. And many jurisdictions have tried with, let's say, a millionaire's tax, but they never posed the exit tax. But they tried the millionaire tax, let's say Baltimore, and what happened? People fled the city, people fled Maryland, and then of course right away what happens, you have less revenue, less economic growth, and you have a dilapidated state like Maryland or Baltimore.
So we often hear how California is I think it's the 7th largest economy in the world, which is one of the selling points that those who support Gavin Newsom toppling Joe Biden, although he has said that he won't challenge Mr. Biden for the presidency in 2024. We hear that he's managed the 7th largest economy in the world, and therefore he has the ability to manage the American economy. But it's billions of dollars in debt, right? And I mean, like all major economies, it seems that California's wealth is actually debt driven, right? Or have I got this wrong?
Well, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But that's the that's the mechanism of the United States economy. Everything is debt driven. Everything's a Ponzi scheme. Everything is debt on debt. So I can't necessarily fault him for having this conceit that he can manage the U.S. economy. Although I can't say that term, managing U.S. economy, because you shouldn't be managing any economy. That's up to the free market and private sector system. So I mean, I can't blame him for thinking that. And also one thing that is also noteworthy is that if he's so proud of the U.S. if he's so proud of the California economy, why are people fleeing that state in droves? Why is there such a massive population exodus and everyone's going to red states, Republican-led states? I think that's also, if he did run for president, I'm sure many people would point to that fact.
Yeah, it's something happening. California and New York, notably, are the two bluest bastions of progressive thought, and they're also the place that are losing the most people. Now, you and I had a chat the other day about a $1 trillion coin. Tell me more, Andrew.
Oh boy. Okay. So this thing has been going on for a long time. I mean, Paul Krugman was one of the early brainchilds of this idea back during one of the debt ceiling crises in 2011 or 2013. But anyway, so now the U.S. is going through the whole debt ceiling battle again. And there's reports surfacing that some administration officials and many Democratic lawmakers and some left-leaning economists say that the U.S. should mint a $1 trillion coin. Now listen to that. So the premise is the Treasury creates a $1 trillion coin. It deposits it at its bank account at the Federal Reserve, and then it withdraws from that $1 trillion bank account to help cover its obligations. That's the whole premise of a $1 trillion coin. And if it happens, I hope not. I mean, even Janet Yellen says it's not going to happen, and it's a gimmick, and the Fed may not even accept it.
Isn't it essentially just quantitative easing by another name?
Yes, it would be. And the problem with the problem with the $1 trillion coin too is that it's not actually worth $1 trillion. I mean, it's not $1 trillion worth of platinum. It's just you print this coin, has a face value of $1 trillion, and then you pump it into the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve would actually have to buy this $1 trillion and then print all this money and then inject it back into the economy. So yes, you're absolutely right that this is quantitative easing and it is inflationary.
Okay, so give us your prognosis for California. What's it going to look like in the next couple of years?
Well, I hope that we can apply these excellent tax policies that I think will lead to absolute destruction for California. But I think that we have Gavination that could benefit the world.
Right, that was Andrew Moran's world famous now Gavin Newsom impersonation, one that echoes up there with his Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Andrew Moran, thanks ever so much for keeping us informed on the state of California, and we'll keep our listeners informed to what happens next. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
After this short break, we'll be right back talking liberty with Scott DeCosenza on the present state of the Second Amendment. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative Five. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe
You only
space.
did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative Five.